Dirty Three are an Australian band. They have 3 members. I don't know how dirty they really are. Maybe they need a shower. They are a guitarist, a drummer, and a violinist, although 2 of them have been known to play bass. The music they produce is instrumental. Critics seem to like them. They released their first album in 1993, and their most recent album was their 10th, which was released in 2012. Hi, my name's Dan. So this was their 3rd album, and it's my first encounter with them. I'd not come across them before, and I didn't know anything about them. So I found out, and I've had a listen. So they are violin, guitar, and drums. It's somewhat hard to describe, and even harder to categorise, I think. Although I don't know a lot about this, but I think that they could probably be categorised as post-rock, which tends to be kind of rock instruments blended with classical instruments, and less kind of drivingly rhythmic. So I would say it's quite loose in approach. All 3 of them contribute to the textures, and it's all about texture and space here. So sometimes they're playing quite slowly, and when they do, it's particularly kind of loose feeling. It's almost got a folky feel whilst they're doing that, but mostly I think I'm saying that because there's a violin involved. And then at other times they play in kind of very intense, loud and thrashy ways. Again, loud, but not necessarily that rhythmic. And then it tends to build up and die away in between, so it has these kind of ebbs and flows in the dynamics. So sometimes the violin plays tunes. There are some tunes in here. There's not a lot of them. And when it does, it tends to have a kind of Eastern European folk feel, or possibly even further east, towards the Far East folk. Sometimes the violin is just kind of vaguely noodling around, again, which is fine. Sometimes the violin is sliding around tuning, so it's not in tune, it's kind of sliding in and out of tune. And sometimes he produces kind of scratchy harmonics, which are the sort of sounds that people make when they're starting to try and learn violin. When I first heard the first bit of the first track, which sounds like that, I wondered whether it was somebody who really couldn't play the violin, but it becomes obvious later that he actually is a fairly skilled violin player. The guitar is often doing arpeggios, sometimes strumming at the louder bits, and the guitar is generally providing the backbone and the structure for the music. The drums, less so, and more playing in kind of texture ways and adding bits of ornamentation. So that as well is unusual, because it would be more normal for the drums to be the backbone of what's going on, and the drums are played in quite a different way in that sense. It's more kind of improvisational and as if it's a melodic instrument in some way. So the whole thing's kind of interesting in its approach. It's quite unusual, but other than the approach, which is interesting, actually musically I found it at times somewhat dull, but actually I found that it was better to listen to when I wasn't paying a lot of attention to it, and using it as background music. And when I was in those situations, I actually found it quite relaxing. Even when it has bits that are quite intense, it then has releases with it. So as a kind of textural background music, it was reasonably okay, I felt. Now, some critics have hailed them as being the best rock band in the world ever, which I find a little bit hard to credit. But if you're one of those people who think that Dirty Three are absolutely fantastic and love this album, I really would like to be enlightened as to why. What is it that makes you feel that way about the band? So the opportunity is there in the comments down below. Please let me know. And that's it from me for now.